We've got a great guest on the show next, and this is Eddie Ghabour, and he's the author of the CommonSense Bull. It's maybe not everything you think it is, but it's that much and more. So he's a financial expert. He is out of Delaware, and he is Skyping in today. So welcome, Eddie. Hi, Eddie. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
Good. Yes, I'm glad that you're here. And I know that we were just chatting and you were gone with spring break with your kids the last week. And, I was gone with my son at, his college graduation. And I feel like I'm just starting to get back into the swing of things. But, that's kind of what makes us human, right?
That's exactly right. It takes a while to get used to it, but it'll be another day or two and we'll be right back in the groove.
I know. So tell me a little bit about the CommonSense Bull. This is a powerful book. I think that it's very well written, and I think that there's a lot of meat and potatoes, but for the average consumer, how well do you think that they're responding to your book right now?
Well, thank you for those kind words. So far, the feedback has been fantastic. My goal with the book was to put it in terms that everyone can understand. Okay. You've been very successful in this business for a long time, so you know how intimidated most individuals are when it comes to financial planning. So I was trying to put it in a way to show folks that financial independence is actually very easy if you just follow some core principles without having to get too technical. And that's probably been the best feedback I've been getting for people is not only do they enjoy the read, but they said that they really understand it. And that makes me feel good and very gratifying for sure.
Well, that's the exciting truth when it comes out to, a consumer reading this, or a friend or a colleague or something like this. They read this and they feel like, gosh, there's really a great message here. So I know what I want to do is empower and educate more people in the community as well as around, the country. And I think that you're starting to do that as well.
Thank you. And you're right. That's a big motivation. I mean, the things that you and I that come natural to us, I think sometimes at least I speak for myself, to kind of take it for granted that most people know what we know, and they truly don't. So I tell folks my goal now at this stage in my career is to educate, but also motivate in a way for people to not only just read and learn, but actually go out and do it.
Now, what do you think is the toughest things for people to consider to go out and just do it?
Well, I think the toughest thing with people that are trying to get to where they want to be financially is the actual discipline behind it.
Sure.
It takes a lot of discipline. I've been very blessed to be around very successful clients that are retired. So I've learned so much from them in the last 20 years on the sacrifices they made to reach this financial independence. And now they're living a wonderful life. I think most people know what they need to do. It's just a matter of getting the right team and coaches around you to motivate you and hold you accountable. I do the same thing myself. I have business coaches and financial coaches and life coaches, and they have just taken me to levels that I never thought I would get to. So I put my money where my mouth is. I'm a big believer in coaching and accountability.
Well, that's great. I think that that's an incredible message because coaching, I think, is a bigger factor out there. Most people don't realize that they need to get that professional experience or knowledge from someone and that advice because they're trying to do it out there themselves. They're trying to do DIY life, do it yourself. And I think that that's sometimes the bigger the hurdle for them to get over. And what's been your experience with people that are just trying to do it by themselves and not really getting the coaching and the expertise from professionals?
Well, I think for most do-it-yourselfers that I come across, if they're really truly being honest, because we have very blunt and open discussions, is they're looking as a way to save money. Okay, they look at hiring a coach as an expense, where I look at it as an investment. If you look at, I was surprised at how a lot of successful people that I've met that they have coaches themselves, and that was a real eye opener to me 10 years ago.
Sure.
So everyone needs a coach, in my opinion, if you're trying to get to new levels, because we're human beings. We're going to procrastinate. We're not going to push ourselves to the limit unless we have someone that we can trust pushing us.
Well, it's going to trust to push us to be accountable, right?
That's exactly right. I mean, I think I'm being very honest with myself, if I've ever had shortfalls, as many people have had, and I were to look back at the reason for those shortfalls, it's my fault. It's not anybody else's fault.
Yes.
And so that's the whole accountability thing, is really holding myself and everyone to a high standard. So that way, at the end of the day, we all work very hard at our careers, no matter what career it is, that one day we can look back and say, you know what, I sacrificed a little bit today to have a much bigger reward down the road.
Well, I think that's an important message for people to really listen to and take on, because the majority of successful people, they do have someone that helps them in coaching, in accountability methods. And if you're trying to strive to be stronger and better at what you do and to do better for the community and who you're trying to work with, then it's a much more powerful approach. Because I think we all deserve, if we're going to really truly try to be successful, having those mentors in our life that we can actually learn from and become as successful, if not more so, in our future, in our careers.
Absolutely. I mean, I look at the investment I've made into the coaches that I have, as well as the mentors that I've had.
Uh-huh.
And I have no doubt that if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't have me on your podcast today. They have just, again, I tell my kids, I have young kids, I tell them you're going to be a product of your environment. Surround yourself around good people
Great.
that can motivate you. So that way you can hit levels that you didn't think were imaginable.
That's an incredible message. So you have children. How many children do you have?
I have two boys. They're 12 and 10.
Okay.
And they know I have coaches. I talk to them about investing. They have their own little stock accounts.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, I teach them to say they do a little lemonade stand at the beach in the summertime, and they take a portion of that and they invest it in their stock account. So I'm trying to train their mind and their brain, because our brains are muscles. If we train our brain to work this way and pay ourselves first, it will carry on to great success financially.
I think that's incredible. It's an incredible message, because we do want to teach our children. If we don't teach them, they'll never know, right? We can go out and do all the providing and all these other things for them, but when they get on their own, they've got to be able to be as motivated as we have been to be successful in their own right.
No, you're exactly right. And honestly, at least in my area, I don't know about your area, I wish they taught it more in elementary schools and middle schools, because I think kids have the ability to learn. There's just, I think sometimes we can discount what they can grasp and what they can't grasp.
Sure.
But the education at every level is so important.
Yes, I agree. Now, what kind of a message would you like to tell the people that are listening today to kind of have a call to action about their financial situation, or their projecting of what retirement should look like for them?
So my message to anyone that's listening today is, if you have not had a detailed review on your personal financial goals and where you are right now financially, and the steps that you need to take to get to success, then you're doing yourself a disservice, and you need to move and go to do that, because that's the problem. Is people they ignore themselves, unfortunately, because they're so busy in their day-to-day lives that it's easy to put that to the side. So my hope with the book and everything that we're doing, both you and I nationally, with all the interviews we do, is motivate people to spend time and invest in themselves, and at least review their plans. Minimum, in my opinion, should be 6 months. But if you haven't done it in a year, then you're probably off course already.
Oh, I agree, because sometimes people look at their portfolio and they go, gosh, I haven't made any money, but really they actually have, and they're not looking from a certain period of time to a certain period of time. There's going to be risk, right? There's going to be risk in the marketplace. There's a lot of great fixed accounts out there that we can go into as well, and it's just, we have to have a balance, right? We have to have a balance. I think that there's so many decisions for the consumer to make today that unfortunately they kind of stick to what they know. Maybe their 401k, maybe their 403b, maybe their SEP IRA, but they're not thinking outside of the box. So it's great that your kids are actually doing stock accounts, because they're doing that from an outside of a retirement type of an account. And it's powerful, because we need money for liquidity, but there's so many things to discuss. And if you're not really looking at your finances and your overall goals and your goals-based planning on a comprehensive level, you're gonna miss something. You're gonna miss
exactly
something.
Right. You're right. And I know you've seen this many times, the taxation side of the investment piece. A lot of people just overlook and don't focus on it. But there's so many different strategies you can do to potentially reduce your future tax implication on the income stream you're pulling from your portfolio. And if you're not well versed in that area, you're leaving money on the table.
That's why we always talk about even doing a fourth quarter review of your taxes and what your tax responsibilities are. And there might be some gains that you can take, that maybe it gets you up to a certain, dollar amount, so that you're avoiding, a big part of capital gains, if not 100% of it, in your tax plan. But if people just stay in their busy lives, get into that fourth quarter of the year and say, oh, holidays are here, I've got too much to do, and we do forget about ourselves, right?
No, you're exactly
so true.
right.
No,
so you're right.
Being proactive, meeting with their tax professional and saying, hey, what do my taxes look like, for next year, so that I can actually do something, because when 12/31 happens, we can't do anything, January 1, and nor are they going to spend time to do that. But boy, they get to February, March, April, and people start to get really nervous about their tax situation, because now they're getting the bad news.
No, you're exactly right. And that's why you need to be proactive in your planning versus reactive. And when it
Right.
comes to planning, Roth conversions is another thing. With the new tax law changes, we're getting a lot of CPAs reaching out to us and helping them with their
Hmm.
clients and doing Roth conversions. Again, these are just little small things that if some people don't have any after tax money,
Right.
these new tax changes may be an opportunity for them to get another source of assets on a
Hmm.
favorable tax basis.
Okay. Well, I know we're kind of getting, low on time right now, but I always like to ask guests that are on the show, what's a fun fact about you? Where do you like to have fun in life, and what most people wouldn't know about you?
I'm a big goofball at home. I look all serious in my suit, but
Sure.
like I said, I've got two kids, they're 12 and 10 years old,
Hmm.
and I coach them in sports,
That's
and
great.
so youth sports is something that I just absolutely love to do.
Hmm.
And one of my life goals when I retire is to continue to coach youth sports well after my kids are hopefully having their own family and coaching their own children.
Well, that's incredible. So I think team sports are an amazing piece for kids to actually learn about, teamwork, because you can't do it alone. You're not going to be as successful alone unless you're working with a team, and being coached and being coachable. And I think that's really the strength of the future for our kids if they're actually involved heavily in sports. My kids were always involved in sports too, so I commend you on that. Now,
Thank
if there's anything else that you'd like to add to the show, we're going to have to wrap it up. But it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, and thank you for Skyping in. It's great to have you all the way out, from Delaware. Hopefully the weather's doing great, and you're starting to enjoy your spring.
Thank you so much. It's
Yes.
been really fun being on your show.